everyone. Welcome to this month's episode of Unpacking Endpoint Management. I am Rochelle Blanchard. I'm a senior product manager here at Microsoft, and I'm your lovely co-host with my pal Danny Guillory. Danny, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, Danny Guillory, principal product manager in Intune space. I'm keeping it short today. Play your turn.
How's that now?
There's so much more to you, Danny.
No, easy.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Clay Taylor. Really appreciate Rochelle and Danny having me on the show. Based out of Redmond, I'm part of the CXE or Customer Experience team. My role is Principal PM Architect. And my job is basically to work with customers like yourselves to help you deploy our products, specifically Intune. And Pierre, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So my name is Pierre Larsen. I'm in the same team as Clay. I'm based in Denmark, so I'm the only one that is not US based. I also work with our customers on a day-to-day basis to help them be way more secure and move to cloud native.
Awesome. Thanks, Per. I think we're going to kick things off with top of mind, and there's been a lot going on the last week, so I think we're going to have plenty to talk about today. Who wants to kick it off as far as what's top of mind? Clay, do you want to kick things off?
Sure, I'm happy to. Yeah, there has been a lot going on these past couple of weeks, and I have to first apologize to Per for keeping him up at all hours of the night working on some demo videos, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. But, we've really had this huge change in our threat landscape over the past month or so. You've been hearing about it, I'm sure, but basically we have these new, what I call AI CVE factories, for lack of a better term, that are really accelerating the, vulnerability discovery that is going on out there. And not only that, they're actually shortening the time that between when those discovery or those vulnerabilities are discovered and when they're actually exploited. I'm not going to name any particular names, but there are AI models out there that you've been reading about in the news the past few weeks that are really focused on, hey, how do we, or what vulnerabilities are in software today that, could have been there for up to 40 years. They are really looking not only at operating systems, they're looking at application vulnerabilities. And I have to say, they're really good at finding those vulnerabilities. So we're having to change the way that we think about protecting our users and devices. And, what we've really been focused on the past few weeks is coming up with guidance for you, to help accelerate your defenses to keep up with these evolving threats. This is something that I think we're going to put some blog post links in here in a few minutes, but we just released a blog post last week from Hayat, our Enterprise Vice President for Security, that is focused on our AI-powered defense and how we should, or how you should start thinking about, your AI defense. What we're seeing is that, with this, with these new vulnerabilities being discovered, you really can't rely on these legacy techniques that you use to keep your operating systems up to date. You really have to start thinking about moving to things like auto patch for Windows devices. You really have to, start thinking about applying security baselines. And, these are things that in the past have, really been considered heavy-handed, that, we've seen a lot of enterprises struggle to move in that direction because of legacy technology that they have and dependencies that are, in my opinion, kind of, self-inflicted dependencies that they just didn't want to move away from. And I think we're at a point, this inflection point, where that's not going to cut it anymore. I mean, you really are going to, if you want to stay ahead of these, you're going to have to, rely on us more, as a company to help keep you up to date. You're going to have to use things like, auto patch, formerly known as Windows Update for Business, and that's really what we've been seeing and focusing on for the past few weeks. As I mentioned, Pear's been up recording demos. We will have some demo videos to go along with the blog post in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for those. But we'll also be talking to you in a few minutes about a new dashboard that we've been building specifically for Intune customers to help keep on top of your Windows Update deployments. And I'll take a quick pause there and just see if anyone else wants to cover top of mind or add on to that before we move into the dashboard.
Yeah, I can definitely add to what you're saying, Clay, that updates is super important, more than ever, but also moving to a standard user mode on your devices if you're not already there. And as Clay said, the importance about us applying our baseline so it can actually be way more secure. Security has always been important, but it's way more important in the new AI world than it has ever been. So you need to learn new techniques and new tooling if you are still in the on-premise world to help yourself and your company to be way more secure in the future.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting over the next few weeks, months, as I look at the dashboard that customers have in their tenant. I'm more interested in how people respond. Everybody that knows me know I've been a customer for way longer than I've been Microsoft. So I keep thinking of the things we used to do and how that's going to change with the AI world. And everybody used to have this cadence, right? Like you would have your patch Tuesday would come out and then you would do updates a few days later. You would watch some little trend or some report. But now I think everybody's balance is going to shift as to how fast they go, right? Because there used to be metrics like, oh, we got to be at 90% within 7 days of the release. Well, now it's 90% good enough. There's going to be a new, I want to say power struggle may be the wrong word, but there'll be a new balance of what's secure versus how much risk I want to take. And maybe people stay where they are, but I don't think you can go forward these next, I don't know, I'd say a couple weeks, maybe a month, whatever. I don't think you can go forward without reevaluating that now. I think it's going to be tough. I think people will, if you don't reevaluate it, I think you're doing the wrong thing. That's just my opinion. But you should reevaluate it, even if it lands you where you are today, saying, hey, I'm going to accept said risk. The non-action to me is still an action. So you still need to evaluate to figure out if I need to stay where I'm at. Should I move the needle? Should I be more aggressive? Was that break? Was that not break? How does that break my workflows? Or how do my workflows need to change based off of my more aggressive patch cycle? Because it may not be 7 days anymore, right? You might need to tune it down to 3 days, being at 80 or 90%, whatever metric number works for your organization. But how does that change everything else downstream or horizontal stream, right? Like that's going to be the interesting thing over the next couple, I'll say a month, maybe.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been on my mind a lot is just the pace of things, because it's happening so fast. And it kind of seems like instead of being able to be a bit more reactive, you kind of have to shift to this always on, always on kind of readiness mode. And I'm curious how we help our customers keep up with that. So Danny, can you talk a little bit more about the dashboard that you and Clay have mentioned that's being set up for Intune customers?
Yeah. So a dashboard, I should have been better prepared. I got to pop up a screenshot or something. But there's a dashboard in your Intune console. It's in, I think it's in the report section. But you can actually see it from the homepage too. So there's a little button. So when you go into there, you'll see 3 different tiles. And kudos to the team for doing all of this work. And there's still a lot of ongoing work based off of feedback what's already there. So you get these 3 boxes. One tells you, I'm going to keep it simple. Red, yellow, green on clients, red, yellow, green on servers, red, yellow, green on M365 applications. So you get to kind of see where you fall. like, I'm going to tell you, like, just to be honest, I've seen some of my customers a lot of red, and hey, what do we do next? So, and they've given me feedback about the dashboard that I can bring back to the engineering team to help improve the dashboard. So if you haven't seen it, you should see it. You probably should have some conversation about it internally. It's a really good dashboard, and I think it's a great start. Feedback has been really good, so we're iterating on the dashboard today, and looking at having some improvements and things out, as soon. Let me say that. But I'm trying not to steal too much from Clay. Go ahead, pick up. Anything else?
No, I think, you really covered the dashboard well. I think that there are, it's a great starting point. I think that the one piece of feedback we do here, and I've talked to Danny about this, is that, you want to be able to drill down and look at individual devices. And I think that's something that the team is working on. That being said, the most important part to me is really just rethinking your update strategy. And that dashboard is a great way to show, hey, now's the time. I probably need to rethink that because there's a lot of red on this dashboard. Yeah. And so that's, I think it's a great tool to actually start that conversation within your organization that, hey, we probably need to move off of legacy update systems. We need to start thinking about third-party app patches. We need to start thinking about Office app patching, your Office 365, making sure that is consistently up to date. And I think that there's a lot of ways that Intune can help with those items. And, we really are trying to improve the way that we allow you to manage those updates as well. So once again, we would love your feedback, not only on the dashboard, but on, hey, what are the improvements in the product that we could bring to basically allow you to get updated quicker and to keep up with that better. But, to me, it really does come down to, using auto patch to make sure that those updates are automatically coming through, to make sure that you are, utilizing your baselines, as we talked about earlier. Pear brought up some other, great areas to think about as well. But yeah, I think that, I don't want to talk about this the entire session, but it is absolutely top of mind for us. And it's something that I don't think I can stress enough how impactful this is going to be on you in the coming months. This is not stuff that's going to wait around. A lot of those tools have not been made publicly available yet, but they are getting ready to be made publicly available. And it seems like every day we're hearing about a new tool that is going to be a new AI tool that's going to be available to attackers in a lot of cases, unfortunately, to look for those vulnerabilities. So just get ahead of this the best you can and really start thinking about, in my personal opinion, you should start having meetings within your security team, your endpoint patching team, your Intune device management team. Start having group meetings sooner rather than later to start talking through this. Because if you don't talk about it, if you're not preparing for it, then you're going to be behind and it's going to come back and burn you. So we really don't want that to happen. Just get ahead of it.
Thanks, Clay. I wanted to reiterate the AKA link again. I know we have one up here, aka.ms/prioritize defense. The dashboard that Clay was talking about is aka.ms/IntuneSec update status. I did have a question because you guys are talking about how you've gotten a lot of good feedback on the dashboard already. So if we have customers who are watching right now who are going to go try it out, what's the best way for them to provide feedback if they have additional requests? Is there a method of doing that in the console or?
So there's always a method in the console to provide feedback.
Where are you actually reading it, though?
Yes, I'll give you two points of view. Like in the console, you should provide feedback, and it gets to me. If you want to get something directly to me, Twitter. God, I'm old. Wait, it's X now. So X or Tech Community. Tech Community sends me, God forbid, emails all the time. So if you want to make sure it gets to me quick, fast, and in a hurry, I would say X or Tech Community. I'm not saying don't follow the process that's baked into the console. Follow the process baked in the console too. It just kind of goes through some anonymization stuff processes through our process before it gets to me that way. We're obviously hugely concerned about privacy, so we make sure we don't break any of those rules too. So you can do all of those methods to get to me. As Clay already mentioned, I was trying not to say it, but yes, we are working on some new things, iterations on the dashboard to make it actionable. If you look at the blog, there's a screenshot in the blog that shows you what it looks like today. Some feedback I've heard is, hey, I want to drill down, I want to click down. Thanks for showing me the numbers, but what is a device? So we are definitely working on that with the team. And just because I'm here talking about it, like I want to make sure I give huge kudos to the team. There's a ton of people on the back end that are working tirelessly to make this happen. I mean, tirelessly. So huge kudos to the team.
I think Clay's going to actually show how to submit. So,
yep, go for it, Clay.
It's actually not going to let me share my. I was hoping to share my screen, but it's not going to let me share my screen.
Well, we can come back to it.
Yep.
Once you get it
You guys
up.
go ahead. I'm having a little bit of a technical issue where it now will not let me go back to the.
Sorry, we'll get back to it. We probably got a bunch of, and there he goes.
He left. Okay, well, we'll touch on some questions now while we're waiting for Clay to come back. So we have one question that's come in. What's the best way to block access for terminated employees? Device controls or conditional access?
Pierre, you've been pretty quiet, and we've talked about
it. It definitely depends. So there's both the identity side of it, but there's also the device side. We have seen, at least in the past, that customers tend to delete the users, and then we don't have the user identity to delete the MAM context, mobile application management context on their mobile phones. So don't delete the users before you actually delete the content. And on the Windows side, or any other platform that is MBAM managed within Intune, it is possible to go out and actually wipe that device. So it will be wiped and the data will be removed on the device. Blocking based on conditional access requires that you do something to make that device non-compliant. So I don't think that is the most optimal way to actually do it. But also moving forward, having data security around all of your data on your endpoint with PureView, that definitely helps as well, because then the security is not only on the device, but no matter where the data is moving. So if you're sending a mail with an attached document, you can actually secure that document as well with our PureView solution.
And this is a great question. I want to call out one area because this is something that, when I'm walking through Zero Trust workshops with customers, which you can go to, by the way, at zerotrust.microsoft.com. You can go check out the Zero Trust workshop yourselves. But as I walk through that with customers, one of the things that I see over and over, there's a MAM setting. So mobile application management or app protection policies, as we call them in Intune. If you go to the third section of that policy creation, there's a section called conditional launch. And if you look at the drop down for conditional launch, there's a setting called disabled accounts. And this is for application management. So this is basically going to apply to your applications, not to the devices. But if a user goes and tries to access one of your managed MAM or Intune app protection managed apps, even if their account is disabled, there is a time period where that token is still active. So we highly recommend, this is a setting that has not been around for too terribly long. And honestly, I've not seen many customers. I've seen, I think, 2 out of probably 100 customers have actually had this set when we go and look in their console. So go look for that setting. Once again, it's under the conditional launch policy section of your app protection policies. And it is called disabled accounts. And you can set that to either wipe the app data or just block the user from logging in. And if that account is re-enabled, they're not going to lose the data that's stored in the cloud. Basically, it's just wiping that data, the data that's stored locally on that device for that application. So it's not going to like wipe their data permanently for that app. It's going to just remove from the device so that they can't access it. And so once again, that's just a setting that, when we talk about disabled accounts or terminated employees, please make sure you have that MAM setting set for and applied and targeted to all of your MAM protected apps.
Awesome. That's a great call out, Clay. We have a question from Tushar on LinkedIn. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name, Tushar. We have a customer that wants a report that identifies non-Windows devices, corporate or BYOD. How do I identify these?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So you're wanting to identify non-Windows devices that are BYOD, that I'm assuming these are enrolled devices. If you're looking to identify devices that are not enrolled in MDM, you can look at your mobile application management or MAM reporting that will actually give you a list of devices that have a MAM user logged into an app, basically for iOS and Android. And this is one way that you can basically take that list and compare it to your list of MDM enrolled devices. That's one way that you could do this. If you're looking to identify, enrolled devices that are non-Windows, that's fairly easy to do in your devices blade. It'll actually list all of your devices that are enrolled, whether it's Mac, iOS, Android, Linux, or Windows. But for unenrolled devices, that's the only way that we have in the Intune console to really look for those devices that are not enrolled in Intune yet.
Yep.
If I'm not understanding your question, just shoot us another message in LinkedIn and explain, and we'll try to answer it, or just reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'm happy to take it offline.
Yeah, there's also another caveat to it. In my experience, when we talk to customers, depending on if they're actually using enrollment restriction or not. So if they're using enrollment restriction to block personal enrollment, that makes it easier. If they allow bring your own devices in, it can actually vary because you have iOS devices that can come from Apple Business Manager. Those will always go in as corporate. But if you just let your users enroll in, and we see that with some customers, especially smaller ones, where they have a rule set that they actually allow bringing either your own phone or corporately issued phone, and there's no real easy way to distinguish between that. We do have an option to use categories inside Intune, and some customers go for that, so they can filter on categories on the device list.
Good.
Any other comments before I go to the next question? Okay. The next question is from Amit on LinkedIn. How do you secure remote and BYOD devices using Intune? What are the best practices?
Great question, Amit. So what I will say is I would start with the Zero Trust workshop and assessment personally. If you go to zerotrust.microsoft.com, you will actually see two options. The first is a automated assessment where we're actually going to go into your Intune tenant. We're going to run a set of automated checks that are going to look and make sure that you have things like security baselines and device compliance policies, or and across all of your operating systems. And it's going to basically do those checks for you and say, hey, these are the things that you need to go back and make sure you do. What I will say is that's looking at, if you just have a few devices targeted with a policy, it's still going to show that you have passed that check. What I would recommend that you do is actually open up what we call the workshop, the Zero Trust workshop. And if you go to the devices section there, you're going to see a extremely detailed list of checks. And these are basically displayed in boxes where you can actually go through and say, hey, have I done this thing? And it's going to go through everything in your console that we think that you need to have configured in order to secure both BYOD and corporate devices. On top of that, you can either control click or click on any of those boxes and click on supporting documentation and the link that and the box that pops up. And you can actually it'll take you to our own documentation that we've handwritten and basically tailor that directly for a zero trust assessment and zero trust workshop. And it'll also link to our guidance and our Learn documentation on how to actually go implement each of those features. So that's something that I highly recommend you use as a starting point. If you're really looking to really strengthen your security controls in your environment, start with the zero trust workshop. That being said, if you really want to extend that, one of the items that's in that workshop is applying security baselines. And so that's another area where I would highly recommend. I would say that, a lot of people up until this point have considered a lot of those controls pretty heavy-handed.
Yep.
And, you do have the option to go turn off things. And I would say before you just go flip the switch, make sure you go through that list and, you're not turning on things that are going to impact your end users. But at the same time, you're going to, especially with these, the increase in exploits that are going to be targeted on your devices in the coming months and year, I would say that you're going to have to take a more heavy-handed approach to security and really think twice about turning some of those features off that in the past we would see customers turn off. I think we're going to get to a point where you're going to have to reconsider that. We also have guidance out there in our Learn site for things like MBAM, so mobile application management. We basically break it into 3 tiers of controls, and you basically have 3 different levels of security. And we actually provide you every single setting that we think you should set, what that setting should be configured to, and all that is available in our Learn documentation as well. If you just go look up MBAM security framework, MBAM security framework, I believe is what our application management security framework, I believe is what we call it. You'll see it'll be one of the first links that you see in your search engine. Just go look for that, and I highly recommend that you take a look at those recommended settings for mobile application management as well.
Now double down on the I want to say CAB because I'm an old man and we just use cabs. I definitely would double down on those security baselines. Like there's a lot of stuff in there. Like I remember using them. So you would load that up and you'd be like, whoa, this is going to break the world. I cannot work. You need I won't say reconsider, but definitely look at each one. Make sure that you have a reason for not using it. Like make sure you have a reason for not using it. TLS 1.2, 1.3, whatever else is going to come, all your crypto stuff. Even if you don't know, don't skip it. Like ask the question. There's too many resources you got access to nowadays where I remember, I don't know what this is. I'm going to skip it, turn it off. Like make sure you pay attention to that. So load up the baselines, look at the settings. You'll have to figure out what works for your organization and don't. But again, I remember sitting there doing it many years ago. So doubling down on what Clay's mentioning. So load it up, turn things off that don't matter or you don't need. Just have a good reason for turning them off.
Thanks, Danny. I like that. I like you need to know why you're not doing something. I think it's a good approach. And just to touch on the Learn content that Clay was mentioning before, we'll make sure and post all of the resource links on Tech Community after the call-in. So just putting that out there. We won't leave you hanging. We have the next question from Mohammed on LinkedIn. How do you use attack surface reduction WDAC and attack surface reduction ASR together in Intune?
Great question. Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
I can definitely take that. I've been working closely with the WDAC team for the last 3 years. So there's nothing in those 2 sets of policy that is actually conflicting. I would definitely say that you should start by using the attack surface reduction. First of all, it's super easy to put them into audit mode. Some of them has 0 end user impact, but has a high security impact on your devices. Some of the ASR settings that you need to be careful about is the Office one, where you can block macros if you have some of those old inside your environment. Not saying that you shouldn't put it into enforce mode, but you definitely need to test and verify that it's not breaking your end users. From an application control business policy, we have been working super hard the last couple of years to actually making it better. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish on your devices, we have a guideline for a regular information worker where you use our managed installer. So that is basically everything coming from that is being installed from Intune will be whitelisted. Then you can use the default Microsoft policy that is allowing the Microsoft product, that is the OS, it's our browsers, Teams, and Microsoft 365 apps to be allowed. And then you can, on top of that, if you don't want to do whitelisting, you can use our intelligent security graph on top of that. So you're only allowing software to run if it's known for something good. So that is the general guidance. We are also aware that we have customers where they need to be explicit whitelisting, and those policies also support that, but you need to create a specific whitelisting policy for application that is not being installed from Intune, for example. But the managed installer is definitely a game changer for our customers, so they don't need to create rules for everything that is being installed from within Intune.
Yeah, and I'll pile on what Per said at the beginning that honestly, start with your attack surface reduction rules. Those are much easier to implement, in my opinion. If you have never implemented either of these things, start with your ASR rules. The good news is that we actually have, as part of the videos I mentioned earlier, the video demos, we actually are going to be releasing, I believe it's going to be next week, a set of video demos. And one of those demos is on actually how to go configure those ASR rules in your tenant. As it does require Defender licensing, but you can actually configure those within your Intune tenant. And we actually have a video demo on how to do that coming out next week. I think that one's going to be narrated by Francesco and possibly Per, but I believe that one's a Francesco video. We're kind of dividing and conquering here. But yeah, it's something that will be coming out at the latest, I believe, next week.
Where are those videos being published, Clay?
They will be published. It's a follow-up to the Secure Now blog, which we talked about earlier. So okay. I'm guessing that it's going to be there. There is also going to be I believe you have this link that we can put up on the screen, but the security.microsoft.com/securenow, which will actually open up the list of recommendations in your Defender console. Those videos will also be linked on that page as well. So security.microsoft.com/securenow, which looks like aka.ms/securenow, also take you to the same place. And that will, open up in your console. So make sure that you're using the same browser that you're logged into your console with in order for that to be populated. But yeah, that's something that, and even today, if you go and click on the links that say take action on that page, it will actually open those up in the console for you today, but the videos will be added in that same blog post within, or that same, I guess, take action description in the console.
Awesome. Okay, we've got another question. This one came from Tech Community. In your opinion, how does the new Windows 11 Administrator Account Protection feature impact thinking about the need for standard user accounts?
I know Danny has some ideas here. Danny, I'm going to put you on the spot because I know there's something that you talk about quite often is, that standard user accounts. So I'll let you take this one.
I was trying to act like I was froze, so I wouldn't have to answer. Settings good. I think there's always going to be a challenge as far as there's some caring and feeding there's some caring and feeding that needs to go into it. And this is just my characterization. You turn that standard user on, but when you turn it on, you assume you know what your end user is doing until you really don't. So then what happens is support ticket, support ticket, support ticket. You get overwhelmed, then you turn it off, and then you turn it back on, and then you turn it off, and then you turn it back on. So there's a happy medium of discovery of what your end users are actually doing. Once you actually know what they're doing and can actually prove it, then the setting works as it's supposed to. But also it goes back to kind of the things that we talked about earlier, and I heard mentioned earlier about the managed installer and things like that, right? So it's a culmination of things because your end users always want something. I will tell you, I heard somebody say macros earlier. I think it was you, Per. Yeah, I used to turn those off all the time because those things are, yeah, whatever. You get them from all types of places. Next thing you know, your attack surface has grown and you didn't know it because somebody's sitting there playing Warcraft or something and some macros are going off in the background. So I don't know. It's interesting. I would just say that it takes some tuning is the right word. So make sure you allow time for tuning and auditing of the process. So
go ahead.
I can pile on top of that. So Windows Administrator Protection is to protect the local Windows Administrator account. So it's not to protect the standard user account.
Yep.
The biggest issue is it's an on and off switch, and there's no logging of what the end user is actually doing. So with our inclusion of our Intune suite products in the E5 later this year, you will, if you're an E5 customer, get access to our Intune EPM solution, our Endpoint Privilege Management. You can turn that on in audit mode, and then you can actually see what the end users is doing when they are a local administrator. Just like Daniel was saying, then you're not flying blind when you're removing those privileges, and you can create rules so they can elevate whatever they need, and you allow inside the organization, and you will get the logging as well.
Yeah. And to me, administrative protection, I kind of see it like sudo on Linux. For those, I'm sure there's a few nerds out there that have used Linux before, and I really kind of see it like sudo on Linux, and basically making it so admins aren't always privileged anymore. And that's the way that I think about it. And if you're not familiar with it, it basically is going to, even an administrator is going to basically be logging in with a deprivileged token now. And that's really what the purpose of administrator protection is about. And I think that the other guys have kind of answered how it ties in to standard user, but it really to me is about reducing token theft and also the UAC bypass exposures that are out there. It's really a good way to prevent those types of attacks by basically removing the standing admin privileges even on administrator accounts.
Anyone else have anything they want to add before we go to the next question? Okay, this one is from Kirana on LinkedIn. What options do we have to completely lock or disable a device if a user fails to return it within the defined time frame? Don't all jump at once.
Well, so there are a few different options. The one is basically the ability to basically go into the console, open up a device, and you can either click to or have the option to wipe that device or basically disable that device through retirement. So I guess it really depends on what you're looking to do. So I'm not totally sure I understand the use case here, but if a user fails to return it within a defined time frame, I'm guessing you're meaning like that employee is no longer employed or got a new device and they want to, they still kept their previous device, and you're wanting to basically block them from using it. You would really have to do that through using things like conditional access and compliance policy, as well as using your what we call admin actions or administrative actions in the console to go and lock or retire a device.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few ways, right? You mentioned conditional access. The only caveat is the device needs to be connected to get the policy, right? So if they turn a device off, put it in a box, and ship it back and it gets lost, then it's not going to connect. But as soon as it does connect, it can receive policy. Plus whatever policy, I may be wrong, but Clay, correct me up here. I thought there's a conditional access policy, like if it doesn't talk in a few little X amount of time, it gets compliance status gets degraded, right? So then when it does try to connect, it won't connect. So there's quite a few options to do that. Is what I can tell you.
Yeah, there's a compliance policy option for that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's really that's the way that I see customers doing that today. If there's something that if we're not talking to your scenario, please let us know. Happy to follow up with you on that. Per, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add there.
No, only that there is when he's saying device lock, my first thought process is iOS and iPad OS, because they actually have it built into the OS where you can lock the device.
Yep.
Where Windows is kind of different because you will always have cached credentials. So unless you are actually retiring the device or wiping the device, there's no real option for you not being able to sign in with your cached credentials.
Okay. Next question. How do we replicate advanced BitLocker /TPM settings in Intune that previously existed in MBAM or GPO?
That one's a little interesting just because of the word advanced. But I mean, look, I just go into Intune and turn on device encryption, storing the BitLocker key in Entra. And I mean, it's kind of easy mode right now instead of having to stand up a server, stand up a database, configure the database. So I guess from trying not to dig into this 400 level, like I would say just keep it high level and deploy the policy to rotate the keys, store the keys in Entra, call it a day. So that's why I say the advanced thing is the thing that's tripping me up. Like what was there that is not in Intune?
I definitely think I know what.
Go for it if you think it. Go for it.
So I think it's BitLocker pin, because that is one of the things that we cannot do. MBAM has an agent that helps the end user being able to configure the pin. Then there is some device unlock if you are near a domain controller or something like that. That really doesn't apply to a cloud native environment anymore. But we do hear the pin questions coming up from time to time. But like what Danny was saying, do whatever you can, and based on the hardware you have, it is actually kind of secure. And with the Windows 11 24H2, all devices will automatically be kicked into BitLocker mode once you join it to an enterprise environment.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, question from LinkedIn. Is there an MDM security policy available to restrict data for the Outlook app for personal, non-managed Android device profiles? This would allow us to manage Outlook app for personal device profiles even while user has assigned with Microsoft 365 basic license. So who wants to take this one?
Pierre, I remember data protection policies, but I don't remember the details of the data protection policies.
No, I don't remember it on top of my head. On Android, if it were on Windows, I could definitely answer it, because you can block use of personal accounts. Clay, do you remember the option to differentiate between a corporate account and a personal account in Outlook on Android?
Not on MDM. We can for MAM. MAM policy is only going to apply to a corporate account, not to the personal account on Outlook.
Right.
If this is for Windows, I don't believe that we have an MDM-based policy for that to restrict the personal versus corporate.
No, on Windows you can only block personal accounts.
Oh, actually, I see in the question. This is Android. I apologize. I had to step away. We're in the office and there's a giant party going on in the hallway. Morale event. So I apologize. I had to step away for just a second.
Wait, I wasn't invited.
Invite him in, Clay. Okay, we have a question from Nabil on LinkedIn. Do you recommend a specific security baseline for maximizing device security?
I would definitely say using the Windows security baseline built into Intune. Be careful about using both the Windows security baseline and the Microsoft Defender for endpoint baseline on the same device. We have been working quite hard to see if we can remove some of the conflicting policies. Then we also have Microsoft 365 app security baseline. Again, like Danny and myself discussed a couple of minutes ago, be careful about the macro settings. And then we have the Microsoft Edge security baseline. In my opinion, that is super straightforward to implement, and actually makes you way more secure when your end users is browsing on the internet. And if you go to the Edge admin center in the admin.microsoft.com portal, there is a policy you can configure to block all other browsers on your Windows devices except for Edge. So when you're talking about baselines for your browsers, if you have multiple browsers in your environment, please create the same security policies on all your browsers so your end users is not going to the least secure browser. Don't laugh, Danny. We actually see that on a day-to-day basis with customers.
Oh man,
It's not nice to laugh at people, Danny.
Okay.
No, but yeah.
I'm more or less laughing because it sounds like something I would do. Like think about it. We're in certain areas, you're almost like R&D. So you got all these different browsers, but then you realize you're like, wait, what's happening here? What policies? So yeah, it totally sounds like something I would do. So
yeah. Okay, we have a question from LinkedIn. Can we see what devices are being removed before they are removed as a result of the device cleanup rules?
Yeah, I don't believe so, Danny. Yeah, I don't believe that's a good ask. From what I understand, basically it's going to just at whatever days you have set. I will say that the good news is that you can now specify a per OS setting for device cleanup rules as of a couple months ago. So, you can at least specify that. I don't believe that you can actually set a grace period where it'll basically say, hey, these are the devices that are going to be wiped after this amount of days, other than, just going and looking in the console and sorting by last check-in date. That's really the only way I know to do that. I think it's a good question. I think, honestly, it's a good feature request I haven't heard before, but Per, Danny, Michelle, if you guys know of anything, feel free to jump in.
No, I don't think we have it today, but you actually triggered something in my mind when you said that you can do cleanup rules per OS right now. So that is the new way of doing it. And the engineering team has been working on adding the audit trail for that one as well. So the old one, there was missing an audit trail. So if you're going to the new way of doing it by doing it per OSs, it will actually end up in the audit logs in the Intune console as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think today, if you just wanted to do it, sort by last check-in, and then you would get a list. But it's good ask.
Okay, next question. And as a reminder, if you have feedback, you can visit aka.ms/Intune feedback to submit it there. Okay, what should we do when we have required security settings that aren't available in Intune?
Turn the computer off.
Yeah. Interesting question. I would say that I would love to find out, what it is you're trying to do. If you're talking about like a group policy that you had before that you don't have an Intune, please let us know. I think we've done a pretty good job at moving most of those over. I would say for most, like for iOS, for example, I know that we are pretty close to day zero on most settings today. Now that we've moved over to settings catalog for most of our operating systems, that we are able to ingest those new settings much quicker than we could before. But honestly, if you see settings like that, let us know. Go through the feedback link that Rochelle posted, or honestly, just message one of us on LinkedIn, and we'll take that to the PM who owns that particular operating system and those settings. But yeah, I know that I would say that compared to even 2 years ago, when I used to get this question all the time, like, hey, what about this setting that I had in group policy before? I can't tell you the last time I heard that. And I go through this a lot with customers on Zero Trust workshops. And I use, when we first started those, I was getting, 10 settings that were not available in Intune that they would bring up. Honestly, in the past 6 months, I can't remember a single setting being brought up that wasn't available in Intune. So please let us know what those settings are. If it's group policy preferences, there is not going to be a out-of-the-box setting in Intune for those today. But you could use like a custom OMA URI or a custom policy to set those settings. But I guess that's probably the answer.
Clay, remember we used to do this one a lot, like a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, we used to have meetings just focused on this. Like, here's the list this week from customers for settings that they want added to Intune. And I really don't see any need for us to even have that anymore because we're not hearing it from customers.
I mean, because of the question, I would be interested in what triggered the question, because there's obviously a setting they thought about.
Absolutely.
Question.
So we actually have a bi-weekly meeting between our team and the Windows organization and the Intune PM owner on the policy side. So I know that there are 2 missing policies from the 25H2 policy set. The reason why they're not in is because the way that we're applying them, that is not working at the moment. So the Windows team and our organization is working to actually bring those 2 last settings in. Another thing that we often hear from customers, especially our Microsoft Defender for endpoint customers, if you look in the security secure score and you see some of the recommendations inside the secure score, not every single settings actually have a policy, not even in group policy, unless you use the group policy preferences, as Clay was saying. Some of it is just a registry value, and you can create a script, a proactive remediation script, to configure those settings that you get straight from the secure score in Defender for Endpoint.
Yeah, it just like how nerdy we all can be. I was thinking about like exactly what you're talking about, Pierre. Like when I would try to figure out what was group policy preferences was doing, it was just run Process Explorer or something in the background, and then you can watch and monitor like, oh, this is being changed. So then you could figure out what that is and then go replicate it as a custom setting or script or something to figure out what was going on and how to set it in Intune. Anyway. A quick, deep nerd reflect.
I like it. I think the takeaway here is maybe you were a customer who thought there were things missing a while ago and you haven't checked back. So to everyone's point, we've made a lot of progress. Go back in and look and make sure it's truly missing still. Okay, last question. I think a common question we hear from our customers is, are we doing this right? What frameworks or assessments exist to help evaluate where you are at with Zero Trust? Clay, I'm guessing you might answer this.
Don't disappear now.
We talked about it a little earlier, but I'll just reiterate: zerotrust.microsoft.com. That should be your starting point. We have both the automated assessment as well as the Zero Trust workshop, which literally walks you through step by step everything you need to do in your console. not just for devices, but we now cover seven pillars, including the AI pillar, which we just added. And the AI pillar is awesome, by the way. Go check that out. That is for the Zero Trust workshop. For the Zero Trust assessment, we're in the process of building out the automated assessments for AI. But that's already there in the Zero Trust workshop. And honestly, that's where I would suggest you start. I really have not seen anything out there, and I'm not saying this because I've worked on this project, but I really haven't seen anything out there that compares to it as far as, really going in and giving you a holistic look across your entire tenant, across all your settings, just to make sure that you have things configured correctly.
All right, we have a few minutes left, so we can do some closing remarks and call it good. Before I pass it over, I want to do a shameless plug for community. It's a great way to stay connected to everyone that's on this call, to understand what's the latest and greatest in Intune. So if you're not already part of our community, go to aka.ms/join Intune community, and you'll find us all there. Danny?
No real final thoughts. I'll just keep it short. Be conscious about your security posture and have those conversations. Remember, no action is an action. So pretending it's not there is not really good either. So things are happening whether you like it or not, know it or not, prepared or not. So prepare to succeed or prepare to fail. It's kind of pick one.
For me, it's just, aka.ms/secure now. As we said, make sure that you're getting ahead of these new AI vulnerability factories that we're hearing about, and let us know how we can help you. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and thanks for listening today. Per?
Yeah, I will definitely say if you have not looked at AutoPatch yet, you should go out and look for it right now. It's inside the Intune portal. Don't make the same mistake as some customers is doing, just applying it for Windows. Please apply it for the Microsoft 365 apps and ads as well, so you can be more holistic, secure on the basic software on your devices.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, Rochelle and Danny, for having us.
No problem. Anytime.
Thank you.